CNN's Zach Cohen has new reporting as well for us in this breaking news. What are you learning about what has been published when you hear J.D. Vance saying this was oversold by Goldberg?
Yes, Sarah, sources are telling me and our colleague Natasha Bertrand effectively the exact opposite, and that the information that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth posted in this group chat was highly classified at the time. And that's especially because at that moment, the operation had not even started yet. One of our sources, a U.S. defense official, says that the operational plans that are these are our operational plans that are highly classified in order to protect service members, the ones that were obviously helping carry out the strike that is really laid out in a detailed timeline in these messages posted by The Atlantic today. And look, these are the kind of updates that would be given to the president in a highly classified setting in real time as the operation unfolded. Our sources are really stressing that, of course, this information was as sensitive as it appeared to be. And there's been some hints as to that being the fact, including yesterday, CIA Director John Ratcliffe was asked a hypothetical about whether or not pre-decisional planning deliberations like what's detailed in these messages should be delivered in a classified setting, and he said of course they should. And look, but this is something that Donald Trump himself said yesterday when he was asked that there was no information in these chats or in this chat that was classified. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth actually sort of declined to address a question whether or not he declassified the information that he posted, but we're learning today now that the details and the information that Hegseth specifically posted to this group chat was in fact classified at the time that he wrote it.
Zach Cohen, thank you so much. We're just getting more information that just came in. Now we're seeing the National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, who on the text messages shows that he is the one that added Jeffrey Goldberg apparently into this particular group chat, saying that he now is downplaying the new information contained in the signal chat that the entire country can now look at. It says no locations, no sources and methods, no war plans, doubling down on the idea that the administration and that this group chat was not about war plans when there was clearly a plan that was spelled out in these text messages.
All right, with us now, Kimberly Dozier, CNN Global Affairs Analyst, Colonel Cedric Leighton, Sabrina Singh, former Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary, Mark Zaid, National Security Attorney. And Mark, I want to start with you because what we are clearly seeing over the last few minutes, based on what we just heard from the National Security Advisor and the Vice President, is sort of wish casting from inside the administration to wish cast this into something that wasn't that big of a deal. Yesterday, you called this a major OPSEC failure, operational security failure. That was before you saw the text messages on Signal. You deal in classified information in your law practice. What do you think now that you've seen the messages?
I can't believe how anyone would think it wasn't classified at the time, which I guess is what they are at least acknowledging. I actually wish that Jeffrey Goldberg had given these text messages first to the intelligence committees to examine before putting them out there, but the administration gave him that opening without a doubt by their doubling down on what they say wasn't in there. This was a horrible blunder. The administration is doing, unfortunately, what it generally does, which is attack the messenger, deflect from what the actual issues are rather than just acknowledge you made a big mistake. You had, from what I understand, a good operation that should be applauded. But from a security standpoint, this is just another example of how, frankly, incompetent this administration has been in handling national security issues.
And Sabrina, let me bring you in on this. You, of course, worked in communications at the Pentagon under Lloyd Austin until just a short time ago. The description, the kind of opposing descriptions that we are getting from the reporting, the messages, and the response from Mike Waltz and others on what they see. What do you see?
Yeah, it's pretty clear what's here in those text messages. What we see is a pretty concise TikTok of events. We see the time and locations of where the strikes are going to occur. We even see that Secretary Hegseth put the airframes that were going to be used to conduct those strikes in the text thread. I understand that the Republicans are trying to cover up and parse that, the exact locations aren't given. It is well known where the Houthis control territory within Yemen. The fact that the secretary put this incredibly sensitive, classified, top secret TikTok sequence of events in an unclassified group chat, had that been intercepted by an adversary, that could have killed one of our fighter pilots that were in the air preparing to conduct that strike. And so it's incredibly damaging. I think that this talk that there was nothing classified put in this thread, anything that is before an operation begins, is classified. And that's what needs to be investigated. And frankly, I think we're seeing the gross incompetence, not only of Secretary Hegseth, but others that participated in this chat as well.
Now to you, Colonel Cedric Layton. I just want to put back up what we saw in this text chat, just to remind people. One of the first things that we saw, and it gives the time, 11:44 Eastern, and it says weather favorable, just confirmed with CENTCOM, we're a go for the mission launch. And then it gives you the F-18s are launching, and it tells you that there are more F-18s launching, and then it says this is when the first bombs will definitely drop. And that was at 14:15, which is 2:15 in the afternoon, saying strike drones are on target. When you see that, if you were currently in the military involved in this particular mission, would you, if that was leaked out to the public or to someone who wasn't supposed to be a part of this group, would that put soldiers, airmen, people in danger?
It would, absolutely, Sarah. So if I were the commander of an operation like that, I would seriously consider, if I know that this is being leaked at that moment in time, I would seriously consider aborting the mission. So that's how serious this is. They got lucky that this was a successful mission. The sailors and airmen performed exceptionally well in their duties and in carrying out the mission. But the people in the White House and the Defense Department, in the intelligence community who were on this chat, made a serious mistake by revealing this before the operation was actually going on. And this really points to not only sloppy behavior, but also a lack of professionalism when it comes to these kinds of operations. Discipline has to be maintained at all levels when it comes to these kinds of things, and that includes the very top of our national security establishment.
Just one quick thing. It strikes me that now that this has happened and you're saying that it would put you in danger if you were involved in this mission, how do the troops trust that they are going to be kept safe when they see something like this?
Well, that I think is a very key question, Sarah. Many troops will, just move on and carry on, so to speak. But they know that there is an increased risk when these kinds of things are revealed. There's always been, ever since I've been involved with the military, there's always been a risk that senior people will reveal things in a way that they shouldn't. They'll get on unsecured communication systems. They'll talk in open areas where they shouldn't. Kind of the World War II adage, loose lips sink ships. And that's the kind of thing that we're dealing with here. They should remember that. It is a very key component. And, when you had Congresswoman Houlihan on, she spoke about how OPSEC is drilled into military people, but not so much into our political leadership. And our political leadership needs to understand there are significant consequences to these kinds of things, and a failure to abide by OPSEC rules, all of the OPSEC rules, can pose significant dangers and result in not only catastrophic failures, but obviously loss of life and potential loss of capabilities, operational capabilities.
Kimberly Dozier, you know who might have an awkward morning for the next few hours? Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and CIA Director John Ratcliffe, who are set to testify in moments before the House Intelligence Committee. Tulsi Gabbard yesterday said she couldn't recall or had no knowledge of whether there were times included on these text exchanges. There are times all over them. What are you anticipating this morning?
Every single Democrat will again be asking about this, and every single Republican will likely be trying to obliquely ignore it. It seems that in using Signal, the actors in this primary committee, in the principals committee, just got so comfortable with it that they forgot they weren't talking on a highly secure network. Even within the military and in the intelligence community, there are two different systems, the SIPR and the NIPR network. And, one's the high side and one's the low side. And there are things that are you're not supposed to transfer over. And this is going to raise questions about since what Hegseth was typing in is considered classified, actual movements that are about to happen, was he on a device that allowed him to mix those different skeins of intelligence? And specifically, I'm a Signal user, like most journalists in Washington, D.C. A warning got sent out that using Signal on your computer, as opposed to just your cell phone, has an added risk. So they're going to have to look at, no matter how they're defending themselves in public, there will be an investigation into which devices, what different skeins of information were mixed and how. And there's probably also going to be, in the shoot the messenger tradition of just about any administration, an investigation into Jeffrey Goldberg and Shane Harris, because they were both listed on this story